Heroes, it is 1:01 p.m. Central Time, plus the 7 objectives of basic training. A little late today. We were in the kind of green room, whatever you want to call it, here at Zoom with Jim Huling, getting ready to come on, and his audio would not work. So we tried a few different things, and the heroic gods blessed us with an opportunity to practice our philosophy. I let him know that we just got off of a 3-hour, 2-hour and 45-minute kickoff call with our heroic ambassadors. Hundreds of people from around the world joined us, which was amazing. And that we'll take it as a wink from the heroic gods that it was time to reschedule that call with him. So we're going to coordinate our calendars and figure out when he can come back and join us. I'm seeing the chat. I got to keep the chat up. This is how the cool kids keep track of the chat. They keep it up on the right-hand side. I'm a little slow, folks, but 100 days in a row of these and however many prior Zoom calls, I just figured that out. We recorded our ambassador kickoff call, and excited to share that with you. We'll be sending that out, and everyone who is there for that, bless you. You're amazing. And our thought is, I'm 3 hours into the day with that. That's it's good work. Let's come back to Jim Huling, the 4DX, when we do sometime soon. And it's hard. We were gonna just say, go watch that. That'll be our session for 101, which perhaps it should be. And now, Michael, even as I say that, I'm like, but I want to connect. So let's enjoy a breath together, and then we'll play it by ear. Kimmy's already got her hand up. Nat, did we have ours? We didn't have RSVPs for today because it was a 4DX master chat. I got it. Let's take a breath and connect to that stillness, that silence, as we flip the switch. Isn't silence wonderful? That's our meditation for today. Kimmy, what do you got? I see Tim D as well. We're going to play this one by ear today, but what do you got, Kimmy?
Hi. Okay.
Long time no chat. I mean, what was it, like 10 minutes ago? Let's go.
We're fresh. So there you have plus ones and philosophers notes that say to have one wildly important goal, right? Like the 4DX guys say have one. And when you have two, then you're splitting up your attention and you are less.
So they actually don't. So
okay,
they actually,
someone else. Yes.
So they actually say that no more than 1, 2, maybe they say 3 on that. Formatting's still weird for me, by the way. I downloaded the new app, Michael, and I'm still getting the weird formatting. They actually don't. You can't have more than, let's see what they say. I'm going to lose it here. 1, 2, 3, but it's not more than that. So,
okay.
But go where you were going to go. But that's it isn't. So the one thing is that, but again, even that, oftentimes authors and we are hyperbolic to make the point. The point that we're trying to make is not, you can only have one thing. The point is, don't have 100 things. So even in our energy, our work, and our love, I have anyway, some really important long-term goals, some nearer-term goals, and some immediate-term goals, energy, work, and love. And then, of course, within any one of those aspects, you're going to have things that have a relatively high level of importance. But the basic theme here is not that you can only have one or you're doing it wrong, but that don't have 100. And it's the metaphor of the magnifying glass being held at a point that if you want to make something burn, you can't be moving it around willy-nilly. Yet, of course, there's going to be, nuance and complexity to life. But anyway, just to frame it up.
Yeah, that's super helpful. Thanks. So the specific personal situation, as you know, is, I'm all in for Heroic Coach, and that's a really important part of my life. And I have a coaching business and I make income from that. I also use a lot of my time, energy, and money in acting, as you know. And, just so everyone knows, like with Michael Singer's The Surrender Experiment, I really feel like that describes my experience with the avenues that I've taken, because I wasn't someone who said as a young person, oh, I really want to be an actor. Not at all. Like, I arrived in Hawaii and I stumbled upon, newspaper ads and radio ads for Magnum PI, the show. And so I started that way, and I've really made big gains. And to me, I experience plateaus in a way, but I'm a working actor. I make a lot of, I make a good living off of just the actor part. And so when I read some of the things, I experience a lack of peace, I think, because there's a big part of me that says, oh, I really want to do that. And I really want to do that. And I have this get to do list, for certain things with being a coach and also being an actor. And so the lack of peace comes from, the drive, kind of like what I talked about in Ambassador, right? Like, I want to do all the things.
I'll just play ping pong with you here. It's your game. You get to make the rules. I mean, this is Indy RE, right? One of Alexander's favorite artists. Just Do You. I don't know if that's the name of the song, but someone help me find that. Search Just Do You, Indy RE. If that isn't the name of the song, it's something like that. It's your game. You get to make the rules. So some things that we talk about will be more relevant to you at different times than others, but you need to trust yourself and know when you need to focus and when you need to enjoy your life. And at no point do we want to suffer through it. And there's no absolute truth. There's no, this fits all situations for all people at all times. And again, I try to stress that there is no the way. You figure it out, but you're crushing it. And then to go Singer style on it, here's Michael Singer's formula for success. Do whatever is put in front of you with all your heart and soul, without regard for personal results. Do the work as though it was given to you by the universe itself, for one simple reason, because it was. So then we want to use the structures that we have, right, to create a certain level of structure and a certain amount of spontaneity, not allowing it to become chaotic and not allowing it to become rigid, but your version of that's going to be different. And that's beautiful. The surrender experiment of, well, I guess this is what the universe wants from me now. You need to find that rhythm, but you got it. Like, what would happen if you allowed yourself to enjoy everything and then practice your philosophy, which is being present to the moment? And again, it's Ralph Waldo Emerson, trust thyself. And even as an example, on Monday, I had a team call in which we strategized different things. I said this, and this. And then we did what we did. And then I did my thing, shut down complete, hour-long meditation. And it was very clear that I was wrong, that the strategy was actually not what I had said on Monday. It was something related, but different.
Right.
So then I really told the team when we got together that I am going to practice my philosophy. Ralph Waldo Emerson says, speak what you believe in hard words today, even if it contradicts everything you said yesterday. Yes. You need to bring 1,000-eyed presence to this moment right now. And if you don't, it's like you're dragging around a corpse, he says, behind you. So trusting ourselves is the essence of it. And you're not trusting yourself enough, to put it directly. What would happen if you trusted yourself, that you actually did have your own idiosyncratic philosophy, and you're able to take what works within the frameworks that we've explored and you've explored and let go of what doesn't, knowing that that's super dynamic. And it's all, to go back to Ralph Waldo Emerson, one big experiment. And the more experiments, all of life is an experiment. The more experiments, the better, is how Emerson frames it. But I would encourage you to tap into that beautiful, blissful joy you have. And if you're a Singer fan, then he's got a pretty good formula there that seems to have worked pretty well for him. But remember, what he didn't compromise were his spiritual practices. So if you look at his 3 laws of, let's go to Singer and his PMs. So Michael Singer is an amazing example of an insanely disciplined guy who allows life to flow through him. It's a wonderful apparent paradox, but it's not. So read the 3 essays on universal law that he wrote 50 years ago, almost, in which he talks about the 3 universal laws of karma, will, and love. And then read his Untethered Soul and Living Untethered and feel the connection between the discipline, but the discipline is there to allow you to spontaneously respond to what is present, not to lock you into what you think you needed to do, even if you had clarity 2 minutes before. It's exciting for me to imagine you moving from theory to practice to mastery on that. I can feel like where you are in that kind of unleashing of your untethered soul within the constraints of what we're doing. Final thing, those invitations from the universe to do acting, to do coaching, to do whatever, are not distractions, as Jim Mattis says. They are the reason for the protocol. You do the non-negotiables such that you can respond fluidly to what life gives you. I'll leave it at that. What do you got?
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been an important question for me for a long time. I'd say more than months, and they do work hand in hand together. And I do think it's a question that is very common among a lot of us heroes here, because we have multiple interests and, we want to combine the 2 or 3 things that we do, or even more. And I do want to, I don't know if I've said this to you specifically, but for example, the day before yesterday, we had a 12.5-hour day, and that's just work hours. So then there's also the commuting time and me getting camera ready and all of that. And so, out of 24 hours, it's not heroic. However, I'm going
to call you on that. That's just not true. That's not true. So that's another example of you using a rigid mentality. So I traded texts with a dear friend who's a military officer, right? Yes. So he is doing some things that are very, very important to preserve our freedom, right? Now, let's say he doesn't get his 8 hours of sleep, which he won't most nights when he's doing what he's doing. Was that not heroic, or was the fact that he practices what he can the definition of heroic within his idiosyncratic constraints? And if you cripple yourself with, you have to do this, and if you do that, you lose, then you're losing your own game. So Kimmy, love you, bless you. And are you kidding me? So when I get up in the middle of the night to take care of Alexandra because she needed me to take care of her and be there with my kids, was that not heroic? Goosebumps. What in the are we doing if it isn't to be able to flow with what life gives us? And if you have chosen, as the hero of your story, to be a professional working actress, and that sometimes demands that you do things that are what you just described. Again, we can give countless examples of the late shift nurse or the welfare attorney who needs to be up for certain times. But the most important thing for me that I want you and everyone to feel is it's your life, it's your game. What do you want? If you decide you don't want that, then continuing to do that would be unheroic with asterisks. But if you've said, let's go, hero, I'm all in. Now, what am I going to do to ride that wave? Because, wow, it's really hard to get adequate self-recovery when I'm working 12. Boy, I'm going to rub my hands together and figure that one out. But it's your game. It's your playbook. It's your overall awesome essence. Tell me what you're feeling and what kind of felt unlocked in that moment.
Yeah, I appreciate you so much, Brian. Thank you for catching me on that. I'm crying because, it's challenging, right? The demand.
We got Jim Huling showing up. Whoa. What is this? We got a guest.
Sure.
Jim, we were just running the show. We were just doing the normal programming here. We didn't know we'd be blessed with your experience.
Oh my gosh. Can you hear me? Can you actually hear me now?
Jim, we can hear you. And if we're
Oh my
going
God, it's a miracle.
40X, let's go, hero.
Hey,
You ready to roll?
I have to say that the only thing that could have been more disruptive is to have a technical problem and then come barging in 5 minutes later, and say, I got it. I got it.
I'm all in. Well, you know what? This is such the perfect embodiment of what I was aspiring to teach with Kimmy, that we're gonna go there. So Kimmy, let's come back. So we're gonna be fluid. Again, the whole point, Jim, of our work is to help people get their energy up so they can focus it on what's important now. So you and I, literally there's no stress on that whatsoever for me. It was, heroic, God's blessed us. Cool, we'll pivot. Now we'll pivot back. But the reason why I got a good night of sleep last night, meditate in the morning, is to be able to be adaptive, to be flexible, knowing what my wildly important goal is, which is to be my best self. That's the ultimate goal I have. And then I'll do my best to respond proactively. But if you're up for it, we'll just get straight to work. You feeling good?
Hey, I feel great. I feel a little embarrassed, and I feel like I've disrupted what was already a great meeting by coming back in. Are you sure you don't want to answer that wonderful question that was right there on the cusp before I jumped back?
Kimmy and I were going back and forth. We've had so many great connections. Kimmy, do you want to kind of put a bow tie on that, or do you want to come back to it? What's your ideal?
Yes, I would just like to say, especially since Jim and I have communicated on LinkedIn, so I really appreciate that, Jim. It's good to see you here. So Jim, we were just saying how acting the schedule, I said, was non-heroic, and I'm, the length of time that we're on set.
Yeah.
And Brian, you called me out and said, well, no, it's what the job demands. And so I just want to say, Brian, that everything that we do with heroic allows me to show up on set. And when it's when the weather, we're shooting on location in Hawaii, and it starts to rain, and we have to literally pause for an hour, and that costs tons of money. And then there's, you look over at me, and I'm there happy and calm and grounded, and I'm not thinking of, oh, I can do this and that. I'm there and centered. And I believe that that's my my special power on set. And I really appreciate that. And so thank you for making it okay for me to want to split my talents and gifts in different ways.
Bless you, Kimmy. My goodness, you are such a radiant exemplar and such a great human being and such a gift to everyone that interacts with you. And it's so exciting. Let's continue our chat. Just of really owning the fact that it is our game. We get to make the rules, take what works, let go of what doesn't. Bless you, love you, appreciate you. And let's go. All right, Jim, we've got a party to have here with the 40X. So rewinding, and thank you for flowing and flexing. And we like to say that obstacles make us stronger. So our coaches have to run a Spartan race, which is an obstacle course, in order to graduate our program, because we learned to eat obstacles like energy bars. And I appreciate you eating them today with us. But everybody, Jim Huling, he connected with Michael not too long ago in our coach program, gave a master class on 40X. We're going to revisit it from my perspective. Have a great chat. The 4 disciplines of execution. Jim, as I said in the our little prelude when we weren't able to connect both via audio, we got Kimmy holding it up. Fantastic. We run our business, essentially on the 40X. Absolutely love your work. As you know, I've been a big fan for a long time. And I just discussed it in depth because we just launched something called our Heroic Ambassador Program, in which we're empowering a team of people that believe in our movement to go out and help us catalyze that movement. That's kind of our special forces recruiting department and all that stuff. So I literally described to them our wildly important goals, our lead measures, our scorecard, our accountability kind of factors, and encourage them to consider doing it. So there we go. That's Jim. And how you doing, Jim?
Well, I'm better now. I have to say 2 things real fast if I can. And now I realize time is truly of the essence. first of all, I have been a fan of yours way longer than you've been a fan of mine. I mean, I go all the way back to the original, paper Philosopher's Notes. And I think I had one of those original lifetime memberships like 20 years ago or something. I can't remember, but I've been following you way longer than you've been following me. And then I was just about to have the most crushing moment of my professional career when the one broadcast I wanted to be on was with you. I can't get my microphone to work. So thanks for being so patient with me. So it was almost I've been a fan of yours forever, and your work and the things you do to make the world a better place, and the way you make great master works so digestible and accessible to everybody. I mean, I don't know if you have a fan club, but I'd nominate myself for vice president at least of that fan club. So this was a crushing moment. The one day I wanted to show up for somebody that I really love and admire. I had a technical problem, so I did everything but smash my own computer to bring it back up, and apparently I resuscitated it. So anyway, now I've disrupted everything. Thank you for letting me even come back in the room, Brian.
Goodness!
And give me a starting place. How can I be helpful and somehow make up for all the disruption I've already caused this great meeting today? It's helped me to get me started somewhere. What can I do to add some kind of value to
Jim? I'll tell you what, I had no idea. I remember you commented on a YouTube video. I'm like, that's really cool. We got Jim, years ago when I
oh my gosh. Yeah, no. If you go all the way back when you used to keep records on pencil and paper or whatever it was, you'll find that I was one of the first subscribers to Philosopher's Notes. Wow. And I won't bore you to tears, but I mean, I've really been looking forward to today. You and I haven't really had a chance to meet in a big way anyway. And I wanted to do a great job for you today. And maybe I still have a chance. I don't know, but help me get started.
This is all-time top masters chat right here, right now. We're practicing our philosophy. And I need to make sure that we're connected. We'll have the team, if you're up for text buddying up. I can't wait to connect offline. And
sure. Oh, it'd be an honor. It'd be an honor. Absolutely.
Means a lot to me. Wow. All right. That's how it's done. Making my day. Well, let's just step back. Let's hear more about you. So I want to get into the 4DX, but I'd also love to hear, the theme with these, as you know, but to frame it up real quick, heroic chats with masters. So the first person I had on was my beloved coach, Phil Stutz. The second person I had on was John Mackey, CEO of Whole Foods, two of my biggest inspirations and mentors. And I've just been having these chats where I want to talk about your philosophy and the 4DX and all these things, but I want to hear more about you and your hero's journey and kind of who you are and what got you to this point. And ideally, we'd hear a thing or two about the dragons you faced, the challenges you faced, and how you got to a point where you're here with us today.
Oh my gosh. Well, thanks for starting with a softball. I'm not sure everybody on this broadcast wants to hear all of that. If you just look at my age, Brian, you would think that's going to be a long story. But I think maybe I can net it down into some ways that are meaningful. And I'll start in a particular way, if you don't mind. I'm working on a book of my own now outside of the FranklinCovey organization. So I've got this idea in my head, and I want to lay it out and see if it works as my own framework. So, Brian, I really have come to believe, after all this time and all the things that I've done in my career, that there are really three significant stages to the life of any person who is seeking to have an impact. And by the way, if you don't agree with this, I would love to hear your version, because I'm still in the business of trying to learn from a lot of smart people. And I have no doubt I'm looking at a lot of smart people right now. But here's the way I think about it. There's a first stage of life that's kind of the stage of achievement. And, in that stage, when I was the age of many of you, you work really hard. You do everything you can. You read all the books. You put in the long hours. You do the extra work. You just try to make everything happen. But your primary focus is to demonstrate what I am capable of doing, right? So the very first stage of life, if you don't mind me speaking like an older guy, which Brian, I clearly am the oldest person on this broadcast. I've got to talk to you about your demographic. By the way, I'll be 70 in a couple of days, so how nice for that. But first stage about personal achievement, baby. Yeah, how about that, right? And I went to CrossFit this morning, and I'm still doing all the things. But back to this, and see if this is helpful to anybody. So stage one of life is just personal achievement. You just do everything you can, and you grow as fast as you can. You learn everything you can, and most of your energy is directed toward demonstrating what you are capable of doing. It's a great stage of life, and the fire in the furnace burns very hot in stage one, right? But then you come to stage two, and stage two is when the world sort of flips on its head, because now what you can do as an individual is not so highly valued. What's really valued in stage two is what you can get done through other people. And I don't know if anybody here can relate to this. If you can, maybe nod your head or something. But let me tell you, this is not a happy passage. This Rubicon from, I was the star athlete to now I need to be the star coach. And by the way, everything that got me here won't take me into this new arena. And what do you mean you don't want me to solve the problem myself? You want me to teach other people how to solve the problem? What is this? I made my whole career on being the person who could solve the problem. What are you talking about? This is a terrible passage for most people in the beginning, because it just upends everything you thought was the key to success. Now the things you can do as an individual are not so highly valued, because everybody wants to say, well, what can you do now through others? How can you lift up others? How can you teach others? How can you empower others? Can you, and the classic business word for this is scalability. As a unit of one, maybe Jim was pretty good. But how is 2.0 Jim? Is it scalable? And for some of us it is, and for some of us it's not, but it requires this huge shift. But what happens to me in that shift, and Brian, I say this, I believe this with all my heart, but I say it with the humility that somebody on this very broadcast may have a better idea than me, for goodness sakes. But what really happens then is you genuinely care about those people you're trying to get things done through. So you have not only a crisis of technique, individual to scalability, you also have a crisis of the heart, because there's two ways to get people to do things, right? You can have compliance, you can tell people what to do, and you can make them feel afraid that if they don't do it, you'll fire them. And, you pretty much get a low level of performance, but you get a solid reaction if you build a culture of fear and you do it that way. But if you do it the other way, you try to build a culture of commitment, where people know that you care about them and you've got their back and they've got your back and we're all in this together, then that's a whole different level of that kind of scalability. So you may pass or you may fail at this part of it, or you may, if you don't like the word fail, maybe what's that thing about you either succeed or you learn? Maybe that's a positive way of
win or learn, baby. But
win or learn, right? Yeah. And I'm all about that. I've done plenty of both in my life, but that's phase two. What are you scalable? What can you do through other people? And then there's a third phase. And I'll tell you, just about the time you think you've mastered phase two, the phase of scalability, the phase of significance in a sense, here comes another passage. You have to go into stage three. And stage three is what can you do that will outlast you? What can you do that will live on when you're not here? What can you do? What can you build in such a way that, Jim, if we pluck you out of the organization unexpectedly one day, everything would pretty much carry on exactly the way we want it to, right? Because it turns out that people who succeed in phase two, building for scale, aren't always happy at building for legacy. Legacy is what we really need to be after, but legacy is that part where we have to work hard to make ourselves unnecessary by strengthening the people around us to such a degree that, one day they'll say, hey, boss, we got this. How about you go find something else to do? Because we're all pretty good at the stuff you can let that go now. We got it. And then, as a person, you're like, oh, wow. And now how do I add value? So this is my idea, Brian, that I'm working with these days. Phase 1, 2, and 3, individual achievement to scalability to legacy, those three phases. And here I am over in the legacy phase for sure, right? I mean, unless I'm going to live to be 140, I'm over in the legacy phase of this whole thing. And my own career mirrored that journey. And I'm trying really hard. I can tell a long story, and I don't want to do that to you guys today. I just want to make it meaningful, Brian. But my own life kind of mirrors these three stages. I started out in IT. And when there were no personal computers, they hadn't been invented yet. There were all those old guy stories. I have all those stories, punched cards and everything. And I made it all the way up through the ranks to be a CIO of 2 multi-billion-dollar global corporations. So I kind of went about as far as I could on the IT track of my life. I couldn't get hired as a programmer today. It's so long ago, but I did have a good, 12, 14 year span where I made it up through those ranks, and I learned a lot about leadership and about technology. But then I had this opportunity to go be CEO of a technology company. So kind of the pinnacle of that phase was to say, can you take what you did in IT and can you do it on a broader scale? Kind of like a version of phase two. So I had a chance to join a wonderful company in Atlanta, and I was their CEO for 11 years, and we had a great run. We had over 400% cumulative growth across 11 years. But 4 times in a row, we were named one of the 25 best companies to work for in America, which is really my proudest accomplishment of that whole time. And I had that whole journey. I don't know if I'm doing a good job or not, Brian, but if you take that whole segment that I just gave you, you might think, as most of the people who knew me thought, that I was kind of riding a wave. I was CEO of a really successful company, and I occasionally was on an Atlanta magazine cover or something. I got interviewed by people like Brian Johnson sometimes, and I really felt like what a moment. I think a lot of people would have said, what else would you ask for? But 9 years into that CEO journey, which was 11 years, so 9 years in, something shifted. And I really felt this calling. I wish I knew better language. If this language is a little too prosaic, I hope it's not offensive to anybody. But all of a sudden, being a CEO just I didn't feel like it's what I was supposed to do anymore. I feel like it was time for a new chapter. But can I just be real vulnerable for a minute and say, I didn't want to turn the chapter. I liked what I was doing. I sort of liked the cachet of being a CEO. I certainly liked the check. I cashed every one of them, So I was resisting it. And then here's one of the great lessons I would offer to you and beg you not to go through it. Just listen to my story and avoid it. Is I tried to hold the old chapter open while the new one was waiting to be birthed. I just tried to hold on, So I felt this calling to be a teacher. I felt this calling to talk to people about things that really use whatever skills I had to write or to speak, to be influential, make a difference in that way. I didn't want to just have this predominant profit drive anymore. I really wanted to be one of those people, like Steve Jobs said, to leave a dent in the universe. But I tried to resist it really hard. And the more I resisted it, the more miserable I became. And, for a little while, I was writing a book. I was doing a few speeches on the side, still trying to run a big organization. And I think the last person to realize I wasn't doing a good job at multitasking was me. And so I came to a pinnacle moment, where we're in a good way. The board of directors that I work for said, hey, Jim, we love you, but you got to do one or the other. You can't do both. We need a full-time CEO. That should not be a surprise to you. And you seem to want to at least part-time do all these other things. And what they gave me that day was a great gift, Brian, because they said, you just need to choose. Now, the universe had been saying you need to choose for about 2 years. So I don't want to portray myself as this person who had it all together and saw all the signs and followed all the, I was a miserable failure. I could just, whatever forces in the universe there are that you believe in, they were all shaking their heads saying, God, will this guy ever learn, But finally I came to that moment where I had to choose. And so I did. And one of the things I think, I have 3 things I'm really proud of, Brian. One, I've been married to the love of my life for 42 years and still going strong. And then 2, I've raised 2 of the most remarkable human beings as my kids, who are all in their late 30s now, to go out into the world and do great things. And the third thing is I said yes to my calling. I mean, that's number 3 on my life list, as I said yes to the thing that was calling me. And so I left, I left and walked away. And then to finish that story, which is already far too long, 5 days later, I got a call from FranklinCovey. And FranklinCovey said, hey, we hear you might be available, and I drove over that afternoon because they were here in Atlanta, had a great meeting with them. And when the sun set that night, I was a member of FranklinCovey's team. And I tell you, if you ever need to hear a story that when you say yes to the right thing that's calling you, the universe responds. That's a story. I was in between for 5 days, and on the 5th day, I drove to that office and I left there as a member of the team at FranklinCovey. And that one shift in my life changed everything. And if I wind this up, which I'm sure Brian is ready for me to do, is I went on then to be 14 years. I was at FranklinCovey. I was the global managing consultant for all FranklinCovey worldwide. And I got to write 2 really fine books that I'm awfully proud of. The 2 books became #1 worldwide bestsellers for 2.5 years on Amazon. It was the #1 bestselling strategy book on Amazon. And now it's translated into 16 languages and available in a 2nd edition, and still one of the proudest accomplishments of my life. But if I finish that story, and the only way there is to finish it is, to my great surprise, I came to another passage. I came to another point where I just thought, and I never saw this coming. This is the end of this chapter. In the South, we say things weird, Brian, like holy moly. But I said to myself, holy moly, I got to go through this again, because the 4 disciplines in the role it had played in my life had reached its zenith. And my part in that long story, which continues to this day, my part was coming to a close in that story. And the only thing I can tell you that I'm not bragging about, because I had to learn the lesson in such a hard way, is that this time I handled it better. This time I said yes. I said, yes, I will go. I don't know if I want to go, but I will go. I will reinvent myself one more time. I will accept a new focus. I will strike out boldly into a new arena. And at this point, I was 68 years old. So at 68, I said, I'll step out here. I'll do this, because I remembered the lessons from the last time. And this time I wanted to say yes. I wanted to do it right, and I don't know if I'll ever get another chance. So I also was thinking this might be my last chance to get this right. So I got this right. And I became a coach. I really became a coach who helps people essentially define what their purpose in life is, and then align their daily actions and their investments to be consistent with that purpose. And in 2.5 years, I've taken more than 100 people through my coaching process to find their purpose, get their life on fire. And it's been unquestionably the best chapter of my life, where I went from regularly giving a speech to 10,000 people. I'm now working one-on-one. And sometimes I'm working with a CEO who has a big strategic problem. We're trying to figure that out. And sometimes I'm working with a person who's really successful at work and not successful at all at home, and can't figure out how to bring the parts of their life together, or needs to make a courageous decision, or whatever it is. But this one-on-one, intimate, close work, I think, Brian, I know you're all going to laugh if I say this, but I think this is what I was born to do. I just had to live 68 years of my life to find what I was really born to do. But everything I did before this has prepared me for this role. So that's where I am today, still proudly an emissary of the 4 disciplines, still giving a speech or 2 here or there, but really channeling my life force now into helping people discover their purpose and then get their lives in alignment with it. Was that horribly too long? I think that's too
Jim,
long.
I'm sitting here saying to myself, if I ate popcorn, I'd just be grabbing the popcorn and just put myself on mute and listen to you all day long. Between your beautiful Georgia lilt and your humility and your incredible storytelling and wisdom, I'm seeing all the head shake. Are you kidding me? Lucky us. Let's go.
Thank you.
So much we can talk about there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to look down now. My iPad that I use to look at the camera there just blinked out. So now I'm going to look down.
Thank goodness you had a technical problem. Now I don't feel so bad.
Exactly right. Yeah, we're even. I was telling Jim when we were having the audio challenges, I feel great right now. Finally, it's not me running into the obstacles. It's usually me. Bless you. And
do you mind if I just throw a thought in there, because I saw somebody's chat? Is that all right, Brian? Can I be interactive?
Jim, as I like to say, this is your show. You go. I'm going to put myself on mute. You're so
kind. You're so kind. Is he this kind all the time, or is he just being special today? He's like this all the time, right? He's like my hero. I've been following him for, I don't know, more than a decade. So here I am today. But if I wrapped that story, I hope in a way that made everybody might possibly have some effect, is you probably got some signs right now. You probably got some hints from the universe right now. You read a book, you watched a movie, you heard a podcast. You're like, man, I'd like to do that. That's what I want to, and if, I don't know if any of you would take advice from a guy my age. I hope you would, but I would say, don't do what I did. Say yes to the thing that calls you. And I'm not saying leap off a cliff and try to build a parachute on the way down. I'm not, that's crazy. You don't have to do that. But in an intelligent way, say yes, say a little yes every single day, follow that calling, because then the signs just start coming from everywhere. They're all around you, the things that are there as compassionate guideposts to say, here's where you need to go, here's what you need to do, here's what you need to say yes to. And if you watch the things where your energy goes, I'll tell you, the things you love are not random. They are not. And if there's something you're doing, I don't care whether it's baking bread or giving a speech or helping kids or whatever lights you up, that's not random. That's not accidental. That's a clue. And if you follow those clues, in my own vernacular, I like to say joy is a valid compass. Follow the joy, follow your energy, follow where it goes, And I'm not saying be blind, say, okay, no matter what, I'm going there. I'm not saying that at all. Be smart, be intelligent, have a plan, But I am saying, say yes to the thing that calls you and watch where your energy goes, because the things that excite you truly are not random. They're there for a purpose. They're actually mileposts on a roadway trying to get you to the very place you actually want to go. But the people I coach, Brian, will often say to me, you mean I can just follow the energy of the things that bring me joy? Like, they're like, you got to be kidding me. It can't be that simple. I'm like, well, I'm not saying it's easy, but it is simple. It is simple. Follow the energy. Follow where your joy goes. If you're writing down anything that I'm saying today, I hope you're writing down joy is a valid compass. It took me 2/3 of my life to learn that. And it really is. Yes, have a pro-con list. Yes, read all the books. Yes, go through every philosopher's notes 23 times. Do it all. But remember that the real compass that will take you where you want to go is joy. And let joy be in the lead. Use your mind to serve where you're going, but let your heart speak up as well in terms of the GPS of how you guide your life. Anyway, I just felt really that was an important thing for me to say for some reason, Brian. I hope that was all right.
Jim, I took myself off of mute simply to allow you to continue sharing your insanely great wisdom. So, I'm a big fan of Joseph Campbell. I got him on my wall back there. Maybe you can't see him because I got my screen shared. But, the idea, follow your bliss as ancient spiritual truth, as a jumping off to enlightenment. And again, with all the beautiful caveats with which you shared that, there's the bliss, there's the grunt, there's all these things. But to have joy as a valid compass, what a beautiful frame. And everything you described with your own journey, the achievement, the scalability, the legacy. Let's do a philosopher's note before the book is out. What's our book called? And then let's continue to drill in here. Let's go deep on
oh, you're so kind. I'll gladly talk about my book, which won't be out till next week. So
do we have a working title?
Before we leave that though, can I butcher a Joseph Campbell quote? Because I'm not smart enough to remember it word for word, but I just want to add into what you said, because I have told lots of my clients that the Joseph Campbell quote that personifies my life is his quote. And Brian, please help me if I say this so badly. Will you help fix it? That sometimes you must give up the life you've created in order to have the life you were born for.
Yep.
God, I just got so emotional when I said that. I felt my heart just fill up. Which is that's that energy we're talking about. That's how you follow I just said something that must have been really true for me. And then look at the times I've had to do that. I had to give up being a CIO to go to the next thing. I had to give up being a CEO in order to become a teacher and a speaker. And I had to give up being a speaker and a little bit of a celebrity in order to become a powerful one-on-one coach. The other side of the giving up, when you're on this side, all you see is everything you're letting go of. Is everybody with me on this? The only thing you can think about is, well, I won't be able to do that. I won't be able to do that. I can't do this. I won't make as much money. But as soon as you cross the Rubicon and you get on the other side, there is nothing over there but joy. I mean, the universe is not out to trip you up. It's not. But we have to have some skin in the game. So when you cross that if you feel you have this calling and you step forward in it, in other words, in Joseph Campbell's words, you give up the life you've just finished creating, this chapter, you're going to be scared. Of course, you're going to be scared. It wouldn't be a hero's journey if you weren't scared, for goodness sakes, you know? But when you get on the other side, everything makes sense. Everything makes sense. And I don't know if any of you are fans of The Alchemist, one of my very favorite books. I even have the signed leather-bound edition. This is how important this book is to me. And he says kind of the same thing of you know, when a person begins to pursue their dreams, the whole universe conspires to help them. If you don't know The Alchemist, by the way, you should read that book. And I know Brian would back me up on that. But this is the same thing. He's saying the same thing Joseph Campbell did. And so all I'm saying in my repetitive Southern boring way is I would urge you, I'd get on my knees and beg you, pay attention to the signs and follow the ones that seem to be leading you somewhere. And don't be so scared, because it's all going to turn out great on the other side. Anyway, I'm probably going on too long, Brian.
No, so you can quit apologizing, because I'm seeing the chat. I don't need to see the chat to know that. And by the way, I just learned how to read the chat. So, you know, the cool kids have been looking at the Zoom on the side. I'm like, oh, shoot, that's really cool. Yes, I will hesitate from repeating myself. This is just so beautiful. Someone said, I can listen to Jim talk for hours. Yeah, me too. We must be willing to get rid of the life we've planned. So
created
that is waiting for us. So this is, again, you all know we got Joseph Campbell Companion. We've got a number of notes on Campbell. I literally just encouraged our ambassadors, go back into, you know, Joseph Campbell, watch Finding Joe. Finding Joe, Jim.
Awesome.
Yeah, cool.
Please. And then if you don't, did you mind me plugging The Alchemist a little bit too?
Are you kidding me? I mean, whatever, we'll go to Coelho. So I've read, you know, one of the things that Campbell says is when you find an author who grabs you, read everything they've written and everything they read. So I've read, goosebumps. Like Paulo Coelho is one of the first authors that I read everything he wrote. Just his beautiful style, his just passionate embrace of life and the hero's journey. Huge fan of Paulo Coelho. If you haven't read The Alchemist yet, that's an absolute must read from my vantage point.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, brother. I'm so glad you said that.
I'm putting myself back on mute. Continue. What else we got?
My gosh, no. You know, every time you talk, I wish I would shut up. That's how good you are.
They get to hear me talk all the time. We don't get to hear you. So please, seriously.
I have this fear that I'm never going to be invited back here because I've rambled around and not done the right job. But if you take the three things we just said, isn't that kind of interesting that Campbell says some version, Brian, you said it better. Sometimes we have to give up the life we planned in order to have the life we were born for. That's directionally accurate. Go look up the real quote if you want to get, I can't remember exactly the word. But then Paulo Coelho says that almost the same thing. You know, he says, when you step out in the direction of your dreams, the whole universe conspires to help you. In other words, Dr. Covey used to say this thing about how many leadership books there were in the world and how many things in those leadership books were so similar. And isn't that a great truth? I mean, I read at least one leadership book every 3 weeks or something, or on purpose or something like that. And yeah, they all do say a lot of the same things. But Dr. Covey said to me once personally, he said, Jim, the reason that's true is because we're all dipping our buckets in the same well. But the people we're serving need a different message. And I thought, gosh, isn't that, no wonder he was Dr. Covey, you know, isn't that a profound way that we are all dropping our buckets into the same well of wisdom and principle and timeless things that we know are true. But when we bring the bucket back up and we carry it out into our field of service, the people who we are giving the water to have different needs, and they need it in a different style, in a different way. And that's why we need so many leadership books in the world. Even though when you read them, you say, oh, I've read all this before. Well, sure, but it's serving a different, well, maybe that's your version. Maybe just hearing me say that is, you know, somebody sitting out there, I just know it. You've got this pull on your shirt, you know, like, you need to write a book. You need to write a book. don't you? It's like, come on, Jim, please. And then you're like me, you're over here like, oh yeah, maybe next year. I've got that in my plans for next year. I just need a little more money in the bank. I want to get one more promotion in. Yeah. You get to be on the other side. I promise you this, you will say, why did I not do this sooner? My sweetheart loves to say, if not now, when? I think you're going to have that. Will you please remember that one day Brian brought this old guy on the broadcast and he said this, and then you'll be there and you're being, that was right. Why didn't I start this 2 years ago? But of course, no matter when you start, it's fine. It'll all turn out perfectly. The thing is to start, to follow where your energy's going, and live a life that you didn't just visit the life you had. Don't be a person who just dropped in occasionally on the kind of life you really wanted. Be a person who lived the life you had. Brian, I heard this just this week. I heard someone say, and I'll probably butcher this too, that one version of hell, is it all right if I say hell on here? Sorry. One version of hell is the moment you die, you meet the person you could have been. Have you ever heard that?
So, Jim, that is actually the way that I get people to wake up to the reality that this isn't a dress rehearsal. So that is the first exercise that I give.
Oh my gosh.
In our basic training, which I also have a +1 on. I forget where I heard that, but
can you think of anything more haunting? I'm just telling you, that haunts me. That idea that one day somebody's going to say to me, hey, Jim, welcome to wherever it is I end up after this life. And then to say, hey, by the way, you see that guy over there? And I'm probably going to go, yeah, who is that? They're going to say, that's who you could have been.
Oh,
you hadn't been so scared. You hadn't been so tired. If you'd taken better care of yourself, if you'd stayed on target, that's who you were supposed to be, buddy. That would be literally the worst moment I could ever imagine. Right
at the way, I love it. And I literally have people do a time traveling exercise. So there's so many parallels here. Stephen Covey was the first book I read, 7 Habits, raised in a conservative Catholic upbringing, as you may know. Recruited by the old Arthur Anderson, went to a leadership event at 20 years old, was introduced to 7 Habits. Wow, I can proactively strive to create my own life, virtue. This is amazing. And then when I did my first coaching 20 years ago, the first exercise that I had my clients go through was the eulogy exercise, combined with his rocking chair exercise. And I've adapted it to the quick trip to hell and then the eulogy exercise. But the way that I frame it is, you imagine that moment, and I put them on their deathbed. So you're on your deathbed. You have.
I like it better that way. Yeah.
And in walks someone into the room. The door opens and you immediately recognize that it's Goosebumps, the version of you could have been. Now the hell inserts itself because it's too late to do anything about it.
Yes.
So right at that moment, you can't do anything. So then by doing that negative visualization, Stoic style, and feeling pain today, knowing that the greatest motivator is loss aversion, right? Not a gain, but not failing in something, you can do something about it. So wake up. This isn't a dress rehearsal. I love you. This is so great.
Good Lord, I was going to say, now you expect me to follow what you just said? You literally think I'm going to come in with my Southern drawl and follow you? Come on.
Yes, I do.
Brilliant. That was brilliant.
100%. I'm just following your shadow here. What are you talking about? I'm just keeping pace. Gosh, so many ways I want to go here. I admire you for a lot of reasons. The fact that you've been with your beloved for 42 years. So I've got a target I hit every day. As you may know, we've distilled our app into helping you recommit to being your best self, identity, virtues, behaviors. The very first target I hit every day, and I'll do it again in my mind, is recommitting to being with my wife for 51 years. So your 42 years deeply inspires me. I want to be best friends with my adult kids. Mine are 10 and 5, but your celebration of your kids means a lot to me. And just who you are, and just your presence and your playful, humble, insanely wise, and equally humble presence, just amazing. Do you know Tom Morris?
I don't. The name sounds familiar.
Deo Valente, we'll text Buddy up. I'm going to connect you with Tom Morris because I saw someone say, you are my new uncle, or can you be my uncle? Someone said in our chat to you, Jim.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So Tom Morris, dual PhD from Yale, philosophy, religious studies. John Mackey told me I had to read everything he's written because he loved them. Anyway, professor at Notre Dame, he's got his own Southern drawl, I think from North Carolina. You two are brothers and my new uncles. So
wow. I'm not sure I'm smart enough to hang out with either one of you, but I would love that connection. And I thank you, brother. I'm so honored you'd even think of that. And point me in direction. Tell me, what can I talk about that would be of some value to the amazing faces I'm looking at right now?
So we'll continue the discussion. And then what's your outer time? I know we've already gone the hour with.
I have no time. I have nothing this day that's more important than being on this broadcast. So it doesn't matter. We can put on our pajamas, order pizza. We can go into the evening.
I'm going to need to sit down at some point because I have now been officially standing for 4 hours. I sat down.
I think you should. You should sit down.
Yeah. Well, let's go. I'm earnest in, what's your book called? Do we have a word?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I almost forgot. So you won't be surprised after you kind of heard me a little bit that I feel right now. Oh, wow. I feel called to people who are going through the motions of their life. I feel called to them. They're my people. And they might have a good job and they might have a good career and they might have a nice car and a big house and make money. And they might have, a number of things, which are all, by the way, quite honorable things to do. But inside, I have a client the other day, Brian, a coaching client, senior executive, who came to me for his first session, and his opening line was, "From the outside, I look great, but I'm hollowed out from the inside." I never heard anything quite as dramatic as that. So those are my people. Those are the people who don't necessarily have a bad life. In fact, most of the time they have a great life. They have a good life, but they don't have that sense of, I know exactly what I'm here to do, and I am in the process of doing it. They can have they have achievement but no significance, and we've all, I don't know, you all look so young to me, but of course everybody looks young to me now, Brian, but you get the difference probably even already, that achievement runs out of gas. It just does. It's great when you're young. It's great to get a big raise. It's great to have all the things that money can buy. And by the way, just so there's no confusion, I think money's awesome. I think you should all have all the money you can earn, and do good things with it and build a great life with it. That's all great. But if I'm going to be your gray-haired Gandalf today, I'm going to be the one saying there comes a point when success is not enough. You're going to start hungering for significance. You're going to say to yourself, is this really making any difference? So I'm going to hit my quarterly goals one more time this year. Every quarter, I'm gonna get one more promotion. I'm gonna get one more raise. I'm gonna get one more set of letters behind my name. I'm gonna get a little bit bigger off door. I don't know, or I'm gonna, whatever your version of a little bit more is. There's a point where what used to satisfy you doesn't satisfy you anymore. It's not enough. But it's not that you're hungering for more achievement. It's that you're hungering for meaning. You want it to matter. And I've always believed this, Brian. I'm going to have to watch your face when I say this to see what your reaction is. But I believe the definition of midlife is the very day you realize you will not live forever. That's the day midlife begins. Now, for some people, that day comes at 65, and for some people, that day comes at 35. I don't know. But the moment you realize you don't have forever is when you start thinking differently. And somewhere around this idea of midlife is when this whole bigger question starts to come into people's minds of, I've done some good things and I'm proud of what I've done. And I'm certainly grateful for all the things I've had, but has it really mattered? Now, this is my new client who is 61, CEO of a big company. If I said the name, you would know the name of the company, who says to me privately in the confidentiality of our office, I'm hollowed out from the inside. And he said to me, I don't think anybody knows it. And that's where I got to be Gandalf and say, I'm so sorry to tell you this, but it's likely everybody knows. The last person to know is you. Because nobody's that good of an actor, nobody's that good to embody fulfillment when you're actually, as he said, hollowed out from the inside. So what he and I started working on is really what my book is all about. So my title right now, Brian, is Find Your Fire, which shouldn't surprise anybody after that build-up. Maybe it was too much of a build-up, but Find Your Fire. And then the subtitle is 5 Critical Practices for Awakening Your Passion and Deep Purpose. And I'm just going to have 5. I couldn't have 4 for obvious reasons, because the FranklinCovey people would say, "Wait, that's too close." But okay, that was a joke. I don't think anybody got that joke. But I'm going to have 5 critical practices that are designed to awaken your passion and your sense of deep purpose. And a book like that is so much like me, Brian. I'm really a narrow and deep guy. So I'm honestly not good at a lot of things. I just happen to be pretty good at a few things. And that feels right to me. I can get better and better at the few things I think I have a chance of, in your words, kind of maybe mastering. I don't know if I'll ever get there, but that feels better to me. And then some people are born to be adventurers and try new things all the time and in a constant state of discovery. And they're all great. The world needs all those kinds of people. But for me, I'm a narrow and deep guy, to the point of tedium, honestly, so I like having 5 things so I can really go deep on and try to give people some very practical ideas. I hope the book is very low on philosophy and very big on things to do. I don't know if any of you,
which is good philosophy, Jim. Let's be fair to philosophy. So good philosophy is moving from theory to practice. And now, to the extent you're open to sharing your 5 critical practices, that was going to be my follow-on question about, okay, cool. What can we do specifically? Again, we're all about.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
To practice to mastery together. So to the extent you're open to giving us the.
Oh my gosh, come on, are you kidding?
Notes, let's go.
I'm stunned. I had no idea you would let me share that much of that. You had me at hello, brother. I'm glad to do it, So let's just take this simple idea. And by the way, just a small disclaimer over to the side. And Brian, if this is not right, please edit it out. But I have been, for the last 2.5 years, I have posted on LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook every single day. I haven't missed a day in 2.5 years. And every day I put out some micro dot of something I think might be helpful to somebody. I have yet to put out a self-promoting post. God help me. I hope I can keep that record intact, But so there's none of it is about come coach with me or come buy my thing, or I don't care about any of that. I'm really sending out. That old expression about throw your bread on the water and it will come back to you in many days. Another thing I've just butchered, but you get the idea. That's how I think of those. They're my little micro boats on the water of a thought, a good thought, or an encouragement, or a piece of wisdom, or how to do something. So if you're interested in me at all, you can find all that stuff for free every single day. And there's 200 or 300 of them out there on LinkedIn already over the last couple of years. But one of the things that's gotten the reason I said all that is that one of the things that people seem to respond to the most is my idea about finding your purpose seems to be different than everybody else's. And I'm not saying that to be sizzling. I just get a lot of comments back about this is not how you do it. And I always tell them, I'm amused a little bit that there's so many people who think they have the only way of, finding your purpose. I don't know. But here's my way. First of all, I don't believe there is any finding your purpose. I don't believe that's the right language. Your purpose is not lost. It's not like your car keys. It's not like, hey, honey, have you seen my purpose? I had it yesterday. It's over here somewhere. I might have left it in the bathroom. The whole idea of finding your purpose is a false starting point. So, and of course, you're all free to believe whatever you want. Just thanks for allowing me to say it the way I think of it. So I don't think finding your purpose is the way to approach this. And I don't think it leads you anywhere. In fact, I think it leads, don't you know people who are frustrated about this whole purpose thing? And they're tired of trying to figure out what it is. And they're like, and everybody says something different, that's part of that. Because you're starting from the wrong, you can't, you'll never see a sunrise if you travel east, or I got that backwards, didn't I? Yeah, travel west. If you never travel west constantly, you'll never see a sunrise. So I think purpose is not something you find. I think purpose is something you build. And you build it like a rock wall. And if any of you are connected to me on LinkedIn, this is exact post I wrote yesterday. I would like, if you give me 3.5 minutes, I'll tell you my whole approach to this.
Jim, I am popcorn. You got 33 minutes. Let's go.
Okay. All right. Are you as kind to everybody that comes on here?
Yeah, you make it especially easy to be so,
Oh
Jim.
man,
You're a
come
good
on.
one, dude. Let's go.
I'm having a great day. I don't know about all of you. So I want you to think of it like a rock wall, so that every element is like a stone, and you lay that stone down, right? And when you lay it down, it's solid, it's on the ground, and you can put other stones on top of it. Excuse me, that's the metaphor I'd like you to hold, so I can tell you a little bit about my approach to this subject. I promise you it'll be different than probably anybody else's that you've heard. So the first stone you lay down is the stone I laid down in my CEO office at midnight in 2005, because I was incredibly unhappy. And I had everything everybody could ever think they might want materially in the world. And I was sitting there alone in my office at night, and I was so unhappy. And I realized that, I didn't have the language I have today to describe it to you. I had poor language in those days, but I had a rough idea that this is not how life was supposed to be. Shows you what a genius I am. Yeah. And so I sat there in my office, and I sort of said to myself, well, when have you ever been happy, Jim? Can I give you a little clue? If you're talking to yourself and you use your first name, that's a next level conversation. Isn't that true? It's like when your moms would call you by name, So I literally sat there in my office and said, well, okay, when have you been happy, Jim? And I realized I didn't know the answer to that question. So even though it's 10:30 at night, the cleaning crew is out in the office building, there's nobody there but me, and I'm not going home until I find some kind of answer to why I can have so much and be so unhappy. And the first question that came to me was, well, when have you been happy? So the very first exercise I ever did, and it wasn't even an exercise, it's a desperation plea for me, is I started making a list of all the times I could remember. And in this case, I'm speaking professionally, because certainly marrying the love of my life and the birth of my children and all that would be in another category. But speaking professionally, I started to go backward in time, making a list of when I had been happy. Now, there's a punchline coming to this, and I hope you're going to enjoy it, because it certainly was a punchline for me. So I make this list, and I'm sitting there with like 20 memories. Now, if you're going to do this exercise, the only thing I would encourage you is, don't be generic. Don't say, well, there was the fall of 1986. That won't help you. What I want you to do is to say, September 7th of 1986, I had a chance to present a paper to the board of directors on a critical topic, and it went incredibly well, and everything was right, and I lost all sense of time. And when it was over, I thought, man, I wish I could do this all the time. I wish this was my job. That's the kind of moment I want you to remember. And you just make an inventory of your happiest moments, your peak moments, you might even say. You make that whole list. Now, if the camera went off right now and you went and did this, you would think I'm smarter than I really am, because that, just making that list, is a profoundly impactful thing to do. But on the list, then, once you have it, you start to think about each individual moment. Now, if you have 20 of these, that's a workable number. If you have 50, first of all, God bless you. You don't even need to be on this broadcast today, probably. But if you have 50 of these, that may be not workable. You may want to get the biggest 20. But 20 is kind of a number that you can work with, at least in the times I've done it. So you have this list of 20 things. And then you start to ask yourself questions about those moments. So you say, what was I doing in that moment that made it a great moment? What was the activity that I was doing? What was the, what was my focus? What was my energy investment in that moment? What was I doing in these happy moments? And you note that down for each moment. What was I doing? Writing, speaking, teaching, creating, designing, curating, building. What was I doing in that moment that made me happy? And then the second question is, who was I doing it with? And the third question is, what was I doing it for? In other words, what impact did I really want to have? So I want to say those questions again, because I'm doing it fast and I might not have done it well. What are my moments? What's my inventory of the best moments professionally I can ever remember? Let me get a list of them. Now I want to ask myself the question of, what was I doing in that moment? And a sideline to that is maybe, what strength was I using? What talent was I using? Which of my gifts that I've been given was I using? It's a what question. What was I doing in that moment that played such a part in it being one of my best moments ever? And the second question, and I'm going to say it in my Southern way. I'm so self-conscious of, I hope it comes across the right way. But the language that works for me is to say, who was I serving in that moment? Who was I helping? In other words, who are my people? Who are the people I'm drawn to use my gifts for? So if the first part is what was I doing, and that includes my gifts, the second one is really the humility question. We're not architecting a life that's all about me. We're architecting a life where one day I can say, I have a life well spent. I did what I came here to do. I made a difference in the world. We're trying to architect a life that brings us that. So the second one was, who was I serving? Who was I drawn to? And the people I work with now, it's amazing. Sometimes they're drawn to midlifers. Sometimes they're drawn to kids in troubled situations. Sometimes they're drawn to go to other countries and other places. When they get deep in their heart, they find out there's all kinds of stuff down there that's just been waiting to be unlocked, and you never knew. One of my clients said the other day, who really feels called to go over to Africa, where I've been 8 or 10 times, and we were just talking about that kind of feeling. And she said, every time I see a movie that's about people in Africa, I cry, and I don't know why I cry. Why do I cry? Well, we got to the place where we both said, that's the part of you that's locked in a prison of your own making. It's down there. It's just crying because it can't get out. So it sends you up a burst of emotion to say, hey, I'm down here. Now other people will have this if they're writing something, or if they're speaking, or if they're, baking bread. But you've got to look for where that energy is. So that's really the second part. And that's the humility question. Who am I called to serve? And then the third question is the legacy question. How do I want to be remembered? What impact do I want to have? And this is back to, Brian and I are both students of Dr. Covey, and he was really the originator in my mind of this idea of what do you want people to say when you're gone? When it's too late to do anything about it. It's a powerful idea. I have my 2023 version of that, Brian, with great humility. Who wants to paraphrase Stephen Covey, of saying, how do you want to be remembered? Because someday some people are going to stand around, at a break room or a lunch or something, and they're going to say, hey, do you remember Sarah? I remember she was so great. Every time I had a problem, I brought it to Brian. He would help me with it. Do you remember that? Do you remember how patient he was? Well, what about Barnabas? Every time I brought Barnabas a problem or a question, I asked him to help me. He'd say, sure, I've got time for you. I'll make time for you. All the time I worked for Kimmy, she was such a great boss, and she was always committed to helping me and helping me grow. And she never made me feel like I was competing with her. She was here to help me, I could go all day on this, just giving you sound bites to illustrate. But when I do those sound bites, don't you feel something? I do. And I feel here right now, I feel like, man, I hope somebody can say that about me. So Brian, my 2023 version is, I like this idea of, how do you want to be remembered? And if we're all having a big, Irish pub gathering when I'm gone one day, maybe one of you would say, you know what, this is wild. I was on this broadcast once, and Jim was on there, and he really talked too much, and he used too many words, and he was long-winded, but he did say this one thing, and it really helped me, Well, okay, that's how I want to be remembered. So that's the third part. Now let's go back. A middle-aged guy sitting in his office, midnight by now, with these yellow legal pages all over the desk of all these things that I'm now remembering, and I'm remembering why they mattered, and I'm remembering what I was doing, and I'm remembering how I felt when I was doing it. And I had 20 happy moments in my career at that point. Now, this is 2005, so it's a little while ago. I had 20 happy moments. Would anybody be willing to take a guess how many of those moments were as a CEO? You may hold up your appropriate finger. Yes. Yeah, it is. This is hand to heart. And this is not a good story about me, but I had not one happy moment as a CEO on this level. Now, that's not saying I didn't have good days, and that's not saying I didn't love some people that I worked with and valued what they did. And it doesn't mean I wasn't proud of the company or anything. I don't want you to take any wrong messages. I just want you to take the one core message that when I looked back across what was at that moment about 20 years of my life, not one of those moments was as a CEO. Guess what 8 of the 20 moments were? I was speaking. I was speaking to people about something I believed in, that I was passionate about, that I thought would help them. 7 of the moments, I was writing something. I had for years and years, I had a nationally syndicated magazine column called The Business of Life. And some of my moments were about writing those articles and getting people to come back and say, wow, this article really helped me. So in other words, out of the 20, 15 of them, I was speaking or writing. So if I tell you that part of the story, is it any surprise that when presented with a yes or no, an A/B option from the board of directors, be a CEO or be a speaker writer, do you think I had a moment's hesitation? I know I had a little fear, but I had no hesitation. In fact, and do you know the funny story? I still have those yellow legal pages today. I have them right here in my office. They should be in the Smithsonian, I suppose, but I was so alive with my sense of what I was here to do. And it had come from that inventory and those questions that when the threshold moment came, I wasn't so scared. Now I was a little scared. I don't want you to have a false story, but I wasn't all that scared. I had more pull than I had push. I had more desire to move forward than I had reluctance to just hang in there and stay the same. And so I did on that night, I made that decision. And then now the rest of the story. 5 days later, FranklinCovey. And now that's a whole chapter of my life. And all that led me to somehow get to know a really important person named Brian Johnson and end up on a webcast today. So that's my way of going at it. Remember those moments, investigate those moments like your life depended on them. Get a sense of what it was about those moments that made them good, but get a sense of who you were serving, what you were there to do, and then distill all that down into now, how do I want to be remembered? That's my simple little recipe. I think I said this already, didn't I, Brian? I've got almost 200 people in the last 2 years I've taken through that very process, step by step. And many of them are out there right now, just pursuing their dreams and living the life they were born to live. And it's a funny thing, you get to the end and this phrase is often so misused, but this idea of, is it possible to live with no regrets? Well, if you don't mind, Brian, I'll just say a word about that. I hope it's all right with you. I'm not sure it's possible to live a life where you would say there's not a single thing I would do better if I could do it over again. I'm not sure I believe people who say that, or I want to say, what, did you just sit in a closet for 40 years? I don't know. What did you do? How can you do that? So I don't ever say that I want to have a life of no regrets. I don't think I can do it. I don't think I'd be capable of it, but I do think it's possible to do this. I lived a life where I ultimately said yes to the things that mattered most. I think that's my version of no regrets. So when I stand there one day and I look at that version of Jim, who has a trimmer waist than I do, is more, is a smarter, sharper guy, all the things I could have been if I'd tried harder. The one thing I'm not going to look over there and say, oh my gosh, there's a guy that said yes, and I'm this guy that said no. That's not going to be part of my story, because I'm going to look at him and say, hey, you and me, buddy, we did it, didn't we? We said yes. We walked toward joy, even though we were scared. We had the courage to try to move in the direction that the universe seemed to be nudging us toward. I'm going to look at that guy, and that part of me is not going to be missing. That part. Now, there will be other parts, should have stayed on his nutrition plan better, should have done all those things. There'll be plenty of those. But that part won't be. Never pursued his dreams, was too afraid to answer the calling that was on his life, didn't believe in himself enough to even take a shot. That I won't see that. So that's my version of a life with no, God, I'm so emotional. I've just got tears running down my face. That's my version of a life of no regrets. I said yes to the things that called me. Even if you want to say, I ultimately said yes to, because the universe is going to say, Jim, we had to call you 19 times before you answered, but I ultimately said yes. Yeah. Walk towards joy, even when you're scared. Even when you're scared. On the other side of fear is often the most beautiful thing that you've wanted all your life. And you just had to put a little skin in the game to be able to have it. And the skin in the game was you had to take a step forward. I mean, I had to say, I'm going to choose door number 2 to my board of directors. And then they very kindly said, well, today's your last day. And so that was not a bad thing. That was like get out of jail free. And I'm in the car, calling my wife saying, well, honey, we're starting a new chapter this week. And of course, thank God I was married to somebody who said, it's about time. My whole family was so happy for me when that moment came. But if I hadn't done that exercise, I wouldn't have been ready for that moment. I guess that's my long-winded point. The exercise got me ready, got my mind in the right place, got me clear about what mattered to me. And I was really starting to have that legacy feeling too. Like, I don't know, how much time do I have left, And so all that coming together, that's, see, when you ask me a question, Brian, about tell us a little bit about your story, you end up being sorry you asked that question, don't you? Because an hour and a half later, we're like, yeah, that's what
I'm reading the chats, Jim. My God, this is the best heroic chats with masters ever. So I talked all morning. I just get to sit here and soak you up with everyone. This is unbelievable.
Awesome. Happy moment for me.
Yeah, well, a shared happy moment. 5 critical practices. Was that the first one? The practice of doing it, or was that? Yeah, that's so good.
Did you hear the incredulity in his voice there, everybody? I heard it. Did you? Like, that's the first one?
No, in the sense of not that I can't believe that you just went off on that, but oh my God, there's 4 more doors we get to open here.
Yeah, 4 more.
Your ring here, Jim.
Oh gosh, you're so kind. I appreciate it. Thank you for, thank you. I can't wait. I feel like I want to get this down on paper so that, that legacy idea, I'll be gone one day, sooner than any of you, I'll be gone. And I'm leaving some things behind. I'm leaving a trail behind me that somebody else can follow if they want, and then make it better, find a better trail. I'm sure somebody will say, oh my gosh, he missed number 6 and 7. He'd only wrote about 5. That'll be true, but at least I got the 5 down on paper. That's really how I feel about it now.
So, unbelievable. Unbelievable. So then I would love to allow you to connect with an individual or 2 in our community if you're up for it. And if anyone wants
are you kidding? Really?
Yeah, cool. Let's go. Yeah, we often have these great interactions. And again, we could pull those threads and go through the other 4, which
no. We should have done this a long time ago. I would have loved this. Please, let's do this.
Yeah, let's go. So if anyone wants to connect with Jim and ask him a question, raise your hand.
Fire away.
And again, so good. Charlie, good to see you.
Hey, Charlie.
Okay. I'm very nervous because this is my first time actually speaking on heroic.
Me too. I'm nervous too.
Monumental.
Mm-hmm.
But I work in the IT cybersecurity field. So like
nice.
When you said your story, I was like, oh my God, that's the path I'm on. Right. Because I want to be a CTO. Like there's certain things I'm doing sales engineering right now. And like I want to be a sales, a solutions architect, and then be there like helping the C-level stuff. But I'm like,
absolutely.
Am I on the right path now? Now you got me questioning, but I have a prior military background, right? Retired.
Nice.
I've always gotten fulfillment from helping others, and I've always attracted people into my life that are just like looking for stuff. And so I'm always clawing at the bits, looking for bits of knowledge, of wisdom, not for me, but to pass on to others.
Yeah, I love it.
I love how Brian always says with Buddha that life is suffering. And it's like, dude, what can I do to reduce just the overall suffering of the people that look to me and that I connect through in life?
Yeah.
So to hear you say this, it's like, it's things I've been thinking, but now you're speaking.
That's right. And I give you this one thought, Charlie. I love your authenticity, man. it just leaps out of you when you start talking. I don't know, you should not be nervous because you're a natural. But I offer everybody two thoughts about this. And I do talk about this with a lot of people. I think it's important, especially when somebody like me tells a story from the legacy place. You know, remember I was in your place at one point and I had the mortgage and my car payment and the kids and, you know, I had all the stuff. So I haven't always been in the legacy place, but sometimes I talk too much about that part. So you've given me a chance to come back where you are. But two things that come to my mind really well. First of all, I believe this with my whole heart. Every job is a privilege if you can do it from your heart. Every job is a privilege. Every job is honorable if you can do it from your heart. So if you're drawn to technology, which I was, man, oh man, I was in love with all that stuff, you know. But the key is, can I find the heart in what I'm doing? So can I be a technologist, be a world class? Goodness knows we all need help and we all need people to pave the future for even what's now. Look, I'm 70 years old. I'm trying to learn Chat GPT. You know, right now we need people like you who clear the path for us going forward. So technology is an honorable, wonderful field. But I would only add in, as your Gandalf influence for the day, can you find a way to do it from your heart? Can you find a way to be a technologist who uses his ability in service to others and greater causes? Can you find a way to deploy the things you know how to do that only you can do in a way that helps make this world a better place? You know, so in other words, every job can be a privilege if we do it from our hearts. And if IT is your calling, I would say stay with that so long as you still got your heart in it. And then remember what happened to me, you know, midnight in 2005. I loved being a CEO for 9 years. But for the last 2 years of that time, I didn't. My heart wasn't in it anymore. So if you come to a place where your heart's not in it, then that's a moment to start asking some really good questions. But there's nothing any more or less honorable in the world than being a technologist at the moment. Does that make sense the way I'm saying it, Charlie?
Yeah. I've experienced all that in my 20 years in the service. I did go through all those three phases you were talking about, right? You're building, you know, serving, yes. and then it's like, okay, I got to pass it on to these guys, these young guys, you know, 17, 18, 19, teaching them. And then finally, I wasn't getting fulfillment for other reasons, right? I wanted to get into the field that I'm in now. It's like, oh shoot, am I getting another hump? Like, am I going to hit these waves?
Yes. Yeah. And then now you get on with this old guy who says, "Oh, get ready, buddy, because you can have 3 or 4 of these big cycles."
Ride
you know,
the wave, right? Ride the wave.
And I don't know if I've said it well, but I hope I have, in a sense, that I think sometimes we don't have answers because we don't ask. You know, and it's an old saying. I'm not trying to quote an old saying, but I'm really telling you, I think this is the truth. And what happened to me that night in 2005 was I really started asking with some urgency, you know, why am I so unhappy? Why was I happy a year ago? I'm not happy now. What am I supposed to be doing? All those questions I started asking in a deep way. And then Charlie, the crazy thing was, the minute I started asking, I started getting answers. But the answers weren't going to fall down from the sky and smash me in the head. You know, I had to ask, I had to want those answers. And that's where I got myself to. And be smarter than me, get yourself there faster and less painfully than I did. But get to that place where you're saying, what am I supposed to be doing? Is this what I'm meant to be doing? And if not, I hope it's all right with everybody. I say it this way: show me a sign. There's signs everywhere. You know, give me a nudge, one place or the other. Ask for help, and help will come. If you ever find that you have questions about a life in IT, but a life of greatness and service and impact, you can do all that in the one thing for sure.
Yeah, I appreciate.
Thank you, buddy. Yeah, thank you. Hey, both my son and my grandson are active duty guys now, so I have great respect for your service as well. Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, bless you. Great stuff, Charlie and Jim. And just last week, by the way, Jim, we had a woman named Lisa Miller, who is the world's leading scholar on the science of spirituality, in which we talked about synchronicities. And there's the science. I mean, just, you know, forgetting where she is, Columbia. super just amazing. She wrote a book called The Awakened Brain. When we connect, I'll send you the note.
Oh, please.
Yeah, beautiful human being.
Smarter just from knowing you today, Brian.
Let's go, Jim. The feeling's mutual. Hey, what's good?
Do you mind if I just add one quick thing? I'll feel better if you let me say it real fast. Is that
100%.
It's never my intention to impose any system of belief on anybody. That's not my job. I'm not even qualified for that job. So, but when I get passionate, I tend to talk about things in the way I experience them. But I'm just asking everybody, please extend me some grace, if you will, that I'm not saying you should believe the same way I do, or that I hold any particular system of thought that I'm trying to impose on you. I'm really not. I'm really just using the only vocabulary I have to express some things that are hard to put into words sometimes. So anyway,
Jim, you are a humble human being. You do not need to qualify your wisdom any further, but I do appreciate the humility with which you do so. We are 100% aligned, and you are just a good soul.
Thank you,
David. I would love to connect with you. Been enjoying your presence here today, and I'm not sure if we've had a chance to connect yet in one of these sessions. And I just had my third costume change of the day, by the way. I started out in a gray t-shirt. I sweated out of that because I had just gotten off the trail. Put on the black t. Oh, this is the fourth black t-shirt, polo.
Wow.
We just opened our swag shop here, so this is this is ridiculous.
Anyway,
we got the sweatshirt on. We're ready for you now, David. Now that the AC has officially frozen me out.
Well, I appreciate your providing us this platform and for Jim to shine the way he has today. So
thank you.
Bless you both. And Jim, is your birthday in 2 days, May 13th?
Mine is in November.
Oh,
yeah.
I heard it was your birthday in a couple of days. Never mind.
Oh, no. So, I'm just rolling into that big 7-0. So
forget that then. Okay, well, so you've touched me on a lot of different ways, some of the things you said in building your purpose. And then I wanted to maybe have you discuss, if you could touch on, you mentioned earlier, hearing your calling. When you start to hear your calling and then building your wall of purpose, like this transition that might occur. And you did just say signed, ask for help, which was a big crux of the answer already, which happened after I wrote the question, but maybe touch a little bit more on.
Oh gosh, David, I'd be honored to do it. I'd be honored to do that. Because I'm a Southerner, because all my grandfather and great grandfathers were all Irish, I have this way of speaking I can't seem to break out of. So I'm sorry if it's a little prosaic, if calling is a prosaic word for anybody, I don't know, but it means something to me, But if I looped back to something I said earlier, which I believe really strongly, David, is follow your joy. Where do you feel lit up? Where do you? Just the other day, I was asked to do something. I was asked to coach 26 entrepreneurial women who have all left their corporate jobs and are all starting their own businesses, and they formed a collective. And they invited me to be, and get this now, to be the only guy in the program, and for like 6 weeks to coach them on, how do you found a business that will be what you want it to be? Because the stakes are high when it's your business. There's no boss to complain about anymore, or any of that. It's your. So when I got asked to do that, I thought about the same idea of, are you drawn into the current of where your joy is? Do you light up? So when they asked me to do it, in fact, I was sitting at the exact desk I'm at right now, David, and I got off the call, and I was like, oh my God, yes, I'll do that. Yes. Can we start tomorrow? I'll do that tomorrow, I mean, and it wasn't a pro-con list. There was no algebra to it. There was no, well, here's 4 good things about this opportunity. Here's 3 bad things, click, 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 click. Am I going to do it? Yes or no? I had none of that. I would have exploded if I'd not said yes. I had so much energy, like a geyser that just came up, and I don't know if they realized it or not, or if they thought I was creepy or not. I don't know what, but I mean, I couldn't even contain myself. That was to me was a megawatt yes. That was a divine, don't screw this up, Jim, say yes. It was like 100 million watt voltage of yes, I'll do that. Oh my gosh, what would I rather do than that? And then I had the same experience a year ago when I was asked to come up with a little small system for a group of grade school kids that would be around the 4 disciplines. So you think about it now, I've spent my whole life speaking to executives and leaders and implementing the 4 disciplines around the world. And I got asked can school children do the 4 disciplines, And I had the same experience. It was like, oh, heck, yes, I'm working on that. That's awesome, And then I'll have other things. Somebody might ask me to come and do something. I'm not trying to name any names or, brag about anything, but I was asked last month to join the board of directors of a company you would know. And I've never been asked to join the board of a company before. It was a very prestigious thing. And I was honored to be asked. And if we're all just being real, it was a whole lot of money for not a lot of work either. I mean, it was like, there was nothing about this offer that was bad. Nothing. And I got the biggest no I've ever gotten in my life. I mean, it was like a rock hit my chest of, this is not for you, Jim. This is not for you. And everything in my brain, that little voice in my brain, but what about the money? What about the thing? Wouldn't that be great? Put that on LinkedIn. You're going to be able to tell everybody you're on the board of directors. There's the little voice that won't shut up. What about this? But it was like somebody hit me in the chest and said, that is not for you.
Yeah.
And so thank goodness I'm at the place I'm at now. Because 20 years ago, Jim would have done his algebra and said, well, I know I don't feel perfectly good about this, but I think I can learn to love it. Isn't that an awful phrase? I think I can learn, which really just means I want the money and I'll figure everything else out. That's what that means. So, but thank goodness I said no. And I know that was the right answer. So I'm only using my little way of illustrating things to say, if we're watching, if joy is our compass, if things that light us up becomes like the lighthouse on a hill for us, we can navigate toward joy, and it won't lead us wrong. There's nobody out there trying to trick us. It's just trying to give us the opportunity to follow the breadcrumbs, but have some skin in the game. So if we just, keep moving toward the things where you feel the energy, where you feel some joy. And by the way, I'm a big fan of discipline, and I love all that stuff. I go to CrossFit 4 days a week. I love discipline. I love the grind. I love all that way of thinking. But I try really hard now to say to everybody that discipline, though, is not a substitute for joy. Discipline is a tool for implementing things that bring you joy, but it is not a substitute. And there's, it's easy to get confused nowadays. If you listen to I love all these people. I shouldn't name their names, but they're influential, get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. And if you're serious, I love all that, but I don't do it instead of joy. I follow joy first, and I use my discipline to enable me to execute on the things that take me toward joy, for sure. But joy is my compass, or energy, or using all these words, David. I hope to say the same thing. Does that make sense the way I said it?
Beyond it hit home and rang in me, and
awesome.
It's a good virtue to live by. Joy as a compass is just something that you're right, that is the prompting we should follow into joy. So and then quickly, just I did make a film, Those Who Serve. I think this was brought up. You asked, like, what is it I'm serving? So I was taught earlier to serve those who serve. So I love that.
I love that, brother. I can feel that coming from you. I can feel it. And the thing, if I'm not trying to tell everybody how to be, but if you can feel when you're with a person whose life is all about them, you can feel it, can't you? You don't have to be psychic. They're the big actor, and you're the little bit player in the movie of their life. You have this small part to play. You can just feel it when you're with them, right? Wow. But they act like they're all about you. In other words, they've learned the technique of appearing to be a person of service, but they don't have the heart of a person who lives in service, which you seem to have. And if this touches anybody, I tell you, this is the way to live, is to say, what makes me want to help that person? Who am I drawn to? What talents do I have that I can donate or help or use in my work, to help help meet a need. I've heard people say, find what the world needs most and look for where that intersects with what you do best. And you've got a pretty simple formula for a great life. And I still think as a simple formula, that's a very good one. David, it just seems to shine right out of you all the time.
I'm going to quote Brian here, goosebumps I just got. So Jim, thank you again.
You're welcome. I love you, brother. Let's all quote Brian Johnson every day, at least once a day. Let's quote him somewhere, because what a person of impact. What a guy of impact, man.
I just quote you and other people I admire, Jim, but thank you, David. If I'm going to say anything that's worth quoting, it would be that. But I'll tell you what, people wrote down in the chat what I wrote down. That is one of the coolest distinctions of discipline vis-a-vis joy and connections of discipline and joy I've ever heard. I think you said, and this may have been something you've said before, it might have been just totally spontaneous.
It all runs together at some point.
But you said, discipline is the tool for implementing joy, is how I wrote it down.
Right. That's right.
Discipline is the tool for implementing joy. I mean, what a beautiful connection. To quote you.
I love that. Thank you, brother. I really mean that too. I wrote 2 books on discipline. I have to love the subject, but today, that subject has a greater value because I see it as the implementation vehicle for a life of purpose and joy. It's how you get that done, right? Because if you're full of purpose and joy, if you're sitting in a cave on top of a mountain and you're the most purpose-filled, joy-filled person in the world, but you're all alone in the cave on the mountain, you're probably not going to be remembered in any particular way that would let you think you made a difference, right? So we need implementation. We need ways of taking what we feel and bringing it out into the world. And sometimes that requires discipline, right? Discipline is a great thing, but it's just not the thing. It's not the compass that leads you somewhere. It's the thing that enables you to follow that compass. At least that's how I see those things. I hope that's
this is to play with that for a moment. So the first thing we had our design team create for the app was our virtue compass. So for me, it's wisdom, which is kind of that sense of what the ultimate game is how I frame it up, right? So you showing up as your best self in service to something bigger than yourself. We need to start with that. Then you need to have the discipline, the self-mastery is the word we use in order to do it along with these other virtues. But bless you. We are now almost 2 hours in.
Oh God.
I feel like we need a part 2. I feel like we got to figure out a time, if you're up for it, for coming back.
Are you kidding? Yes.
Dialogue. Yeah.
Yes.
And then we're gonna close this thing up. I know we got hands up. And I'm gonna celebrate myself for setting a record for 6 hours straight of standing. We're gonna wrap this one up, Jim. I appreciate you. I am so happy that we went where we went, and that we talked about the work that is so alive for you. And I am now your biggest fan. I appreciated 40 in the intellectual and analytical and practical framework. But I've really fallen in love with you and who you are. As I know, basically everyone here, I think I can speak on behalf. So bless you. I cannot wait to become text buddies. I cannot wait
Me too.
And become your nephew, my Uncle Jim. I look forward to celebrating many days.
I love that, brother. I love that.
Ahead.
Can I throw one small thing out as a way of saying goodbye? Since I can't wait for that next thing I did. If I interrupted you, I didn't mean to. Did I step on
this is your show. I'm going to make a request.
Okay, sorry.
If after you share what you share here, if you can give us like a moment of stillness. I've had many of our masters kind of just bring us through your own guided connection.
I'll do it. I have a way that I do that. I have a personal technique that I would love to give you, and I almost never feel free enough to share it with anybody. So what an invitation. But if I can say this really quick. So one, anybody who feels incomplete today, if I raised your expectation and I didn't deliver on it, I'd love to finish the job. And all you got to do is just connect with me. I'm on every platform there is, and it's all the same name, Jim Huling, Jim Jim Huling, and Instagram, LinkedIn, everything. It's the same name. It's the only way I can remember it is to keep it the same on everything. So I invite you to connect with me so we can keep our conversation going. And then if I raised a question in your mind but didn't get to answer it in the words today, ask me the question on on a direct message on any of those platforms. And I'll promise you, I will answer. I may not be instantaneous because I'm a little bit busy, but I will get back to you. I'll be faithful. If you ask me something, I'll answer it back to you.
Jim, you are so good. And I'm actually going to use this as an opportunity to share something I didn't in the midst of you sharing before. So I don't know how much you know about what we're doing with Heroic, but the basic vision is creating an answer to the social dilemma. So we're creating a social training platform. And as you were talking, I'm the prototypical and principal guide as it currently exists. Yeah. We've had 10,000 people go through our Heroic Coach program. They are guides for people in their community. But then there are people I admire like you who I see as guides. So I feel, and I'm so excited to create the platform through which you can help us transform as one of our principal guides. So I'm excited to talk to you more about that. But as you said, your other social profiles, I say yes to all of that.
I say yes.
John Heroic. This is where we're going to be able to change the world together. But bless you.
Thank you.
Sorry if I interrupted you.
No, you didn't.
Anything else there? Give us the bookended, connection to our best selves on the way out.
Well, I'd say I'm going to give you two things that I think about almost every day of my life. And the first one is this: if I believe with all my heart, if we become anything less than we were born to be, we may have a good life and we may do good things, but there will be a part of us that will always feel unfulfilled. Now, I really believe that. We may have a good life and we may have done good things, but we'll be, in our quiet moments with a glass of wine on the back porch or whatever, we're going to have that, there's something I was supposed to do, and I've just not found it. So if we become anything less than we were born to be, we may have a good life, we may do good work, but we will always have a part of us that will feel unfulfilled. And that's my loving nudge to do the work. Do the work, get out there and do it. And then last of all, a lot of the work I did for FranklinCovey, I did in Africa. I got to go to Africa probably a dozen times. And it was a shaping experience for me. I went to all the many different countries in Africa. But I came home with an African proverb that this very day symbolizes for me in the deepest possible way. I don't know if I'll deliver it well, but what I learned from my friends in Africa was this ancient proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And today, God, I'm so emotional. You gave me a chance to go far because I was able to be with such great people today. I just can't imagine the world all of you are going to create. So thank you. What a privilege, Brian.
Bless you. And very beginning, you're a good one, man. Love you, appreciate you, and very much looking forward to continuing our dialogue via this context and all the others we're able to create together. I deeply appreciate you. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Same here. Be well, everybody. Yeah.
All right. My goodness. All right, Jim, catch you on the other side. Team, I don't know how we get any better than that. Gev, I think you're here. Gev, are you here? And my apologies to those who did not get a chance to ask their question. We will definitely come back on the other side and see if we can pick them up. I don't know about you, and if you kind of have reached your max, give me a sign of just visual hands. You want to have a chance to connect with one another? After this, would you like Geva to split you? Yeah, well, we'll give you the choice. If there's only a few of you, that's a few of you. Geva, if you can please do your thing and usher us to the connection and break through rooms, as Monica beautifully said. I really appreciate each of you who are here today for so long. And then many of you were here for the 2 hours and 45 minutes before the 2 hours here. I cannot put into words how much it means to me to be able to spend the day with you. And day one happens twice tomorrow, 10:01 and 1:01. Let's go, heroes. Love you. Appreciate you. Here's to going far.